every single week on Sundays, I like to swap out the color scheme and kind of like start the week fresh, which is a little bit, it's a little much, you know? But I do think that in life we have to create our own moments of joy, and color brings me a lot of joy. So gotta commit, gotta do some, you know, routines and habits. It's also, it used to be a really nice way for me to get all of the cat hair out of my keyboard every single week, which if I keep talking about that, I am gonna cry. So not gonna keep talking about that. But now I just do it as like a nice routine. It's just nice to refresh your desk, get things going. If anyone's here and wants to chat about anything specific, feel free to leave comments. That almost went in my coffee, so that would have been a fun thing to capture on camera. I am going from a pink themed week, which I will say, these are more of a berry. They're not like the pinkest pink I've ever seen. We're gonna go to a purple week, which will be good. It'll be fun. Hello. It's been a long week. I have not been making nearly as many videos or being online as much, and that's made me I don't know. I feel like I'm having a lot of like existential life crises right now, kind of all combined into one, and that has made it difficult for me to focus on making things. You know, I would also love to know how your week was. The sad is so real. I've just been overwhelmed this week, and like that makes sense because life is difficult for everybody right now. But I'm having a lot of like, you know, moments of just big, I was having a lot of like big questions about what I wanted out of like life before things in my life suddenly took a very sharp left turn. And now I'm I'm kind of stuck being like, well, you didn't have answers, and now you got to get answers out of this version of yourself. And that version is not nearly as powerful as 3 weeks ago version. Because this version hasn't slept. I've just been falling asleep. I've been doing that thing where like I can only fall asleep when I'm so exhausted I can't stay awake. And that has mostly been happening on the couch. And my back is fucked up. So I just keep adding things really to my plate. I have tried to watch, like I went back and tried to watch movies that have always just kind of made me feel something, and like those really do range. I will say the movies that I get stuck on are nonsensical and don't even make sense to me. But I'll tell you what didn't make me didn't improve my mood at all was watching The Departed. Unfortunately, something that usually does work for me. And so yeah, so with Veep, I actually only go through season 4 usually. And that's just because I think the writing gets like way too mean. I don't feel like the people who took over for Armando really understood like what his tone was versus just like outright, like I know I'm saying that and I'm like, ugh, Veep is like one of my favorite shows and I find it so hard to recommend because I'm like, there's a whole thing in the first episode, just ignore that. But I love Veep. Veep is like, I don't know, in college, I really wanted to be a political speechwriter. And I have a double degree in politics and writing. And so like, The West Wing was like my favorite television show. And I do love The West Wing, but I did, you know, with caveats. And I, so yeah, Veep is kind of like the Wario of The West Wing, I would say. Yeah, college was interesting. College was interesting. I decided I went to college in upstate New York. I've said it in other videos. I went to Ithaca College, and it's it was a very bad time for me personally in my life. I was going through a lot of things that I had no real I had a very tenuous grasp on like what I was actually experiencing. Um, and then I moved to New York City the summer between my sophomore and junior year of college and lived with my best friend. And I met my other best friend, who is still my very best friend to this day. We live 10 minutes from each other on purpose. We moved to Portland together and then moved back here. So that summer was extremely influential to me. And then I was like, how do I get back to New York City as quickly as fucking possible? And so I graduated college in 3.5 years, and I took summer classes to get through it. But I was going to college. I applied to Ithaca because I wanted to do documentary filmmaking. And then I made a documentary my senior year of high school in a class called Lights, Camera, Activism. Which my sister had like started with a friend a few years before that. And the class was supposed to be taught by my two favorite teachers in high school. And then one of my favorite teachers developed this like entirely new program, basically for kids who wanted to do alternative education. So he stopped being the tech teacher. And so I didn't get to take a class with him, and I had to take a class with a man who did not know how to get footage off of camcorders. So that really soured me to the experience of making a documentary with other people, because I ended up having to like do it. And also his version of teaching was to take us to extremely inappropriate indie documentaries that were being shown without vetting them first. So I was like, I didn't like that we saw a movie about conscientious objectors that was just 3 hours of dead bodies. Like, it was the most like, oh, it's a movie about conscientious objectors, so this won't be the worst, most gory thing I've ever seen in my life. And it was like truly horrific, and I still have nightmares about it. So didn't love that class. And then I was like, well, I got into Ithaca for documentary filmmaking, and they gave me a lot of money. So I was like, great, we're gonna go here. I did not do a great job with where I applied to college. And so the one I really wanted to go to waitlisted me, and that was Pratt. Which I'm glad I didn't go to Pratt, now that I know people who did go to Pratt for writing. But I didn't want to go to the new school, and I knew that my grades weren't quite good enough for NYU. So I didn't end up coming, anyway, graduated early, but I originally went for writing and history, and with a politics minor. And for a while I was going to do an English minor. So I took like a lot of really great classes, especially my history classes. I'm sad that I didn't get a history degree, but what I thought I wanted to do was politics. So I'm glad that I shifted gears a little bit. And my politics classes were some of the best classes that I took. And I had like some of my favorite professors. So, learned a lot. But the history classes are so helpful. And I do a lot of stand-up not about history, but like I make a lot of jokes that concern history. Making a documentary with a group of high school seniors is not something I recommend anybody do, actually, especially when some of those seniors are like, oh, we should write to music. Like, one of the people, we couldn't decide what to make a documentary on, and that was like a big problem. So like, that became a whole thing, and I was like, it should be like a really narrow subject, and it should be something that we can get good footage of, because I was thinking tactically and practically. And one of the girls was like, we should do it on Darfur, which is an interesting take to have when we were in South Burlington, Vermont. And I was like, how are you gonna get B-roll to put in your documentary about Darfur? But this was at the time that Saving Darfur was very big for liberals, and I understand it. I sold green bracelets that said "Not on our watch," but it was not the subject of a documentary that would have been appropriate for white seniors in high school to tackle. It was just very bad. And so we had like long fights about this. And then finally my teacher was like, we have to make a decision, and it has to be something we can do. And I had wanted to do, something about like I think we had talked about doing something about like trans youth in Vermont. And then it became about like young queer, like it was, and this was pre-Coney 2012. This was a bunch of people who were very like wanting to do good in the world, but just ultimately very misguided and didn't really understand. And I had done a lot around that kind of thing when like I had first seen the documentaries that were coming and like all this stuff. So it wasn't that I didn't have like a ton of firsthand like knowledge, experience, sympathy, like all these things. It was just I was literally like, how do you plan to get B-roll? And they were like, I don't have an answer for you. And it was like, okay, well that's why we shouldn't make a documentary about this. Also because like we were 17. What were we going to add to the conversation? You know what I mean? So that was my take on it. We ended up doing just a documentary about our high school. Yikes, nightmare. I did one on safe zones because there was a ton, it was 2009, 2010, and there was a ton of stuff going around where like a bunch of teachers had these things that were like safe zone for students on their wall, and I was always like, did you guys get any training on that? Which is funny because my sister 3 years later went on to found this thing called the Safe Zone Project, which did give training to teachers about that. So we went around, and our section of the documentary was 8 minutes long. And we just went around and asked a bunch of teachers who had a safe zone on their door, like, what does it mean to you to be a safe zone for students? And some of them have really, really wonderful answers. And one of the teachers we asked, like, our big question was, where is your nearest safe zone? Because these were all the teachers who had it on their door. And I had a teacher who I had a very fun, like, we understood each other. He was like, well, I would hope my room, Bolger. And so that was very fun. I don't usually say my last name on here. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, like our section was good. I really liked our section. We worked really hard on it. It was really tight. But because we had this terrible teacher, he would give us advice like, cut out all of the ums and the uhs. And it's not that that's like bad advice, but it's really jarring when you're watching a documentary and someone's head is tick-tocking back and forth because they've cut out every single filler word the person has said. So there was just a lot of bad editing going on, really. That was really the problem with it. I will say, I really am obsessed with this company, Osume keycaps, and like their stuff, you can tell they're just like so millennial, and I fucking love them because all their stuff feels really high quality. And I need to wipe this down because I got oil on it, but look how cute that cover is. Yeah, and we're going with purple this week. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like, so one of my friends did a whole thing on school lunches, which was really good. One of my friends did one on weighted GPAs, which is funny because she clearly just wanted to prove that weighted GPA. What color? What color? There was something that got like stuck in my head the other day that I kept saying out loud, and now I can't remember what it was. But there are a few lines that I think are delivered extremely well. Yeah, I literally haven't done the obvious videos yet, which is so funny to me because this happened when I had a podcast called Don't Forget Meg Ryan. We like never talked about Meg Ryan movies, and I just find it funny that again, I have gotten myself into a position where I've never made like a top 5 favorite moments, top 5 like anything. I've said top 5 smiles. I was gonna make that video, and then I just was like, I can't leave any out. So it was just then a compilation of all of the times Ilya smiled. Like, that's not a video. You have to have an angle. So those are things that I should probably do the smart thing and make like long form content about. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe was one I was saying for a few days. I'm trying to think of the other ones. There are certain scenes that recently I've had like, I like can't get through them. They make me feel like, I don't, does this make sense? They make me feel like this. Just so like tense and slightly uncomfortable because they're too intimate. And one of them is when they first get to the cottage and they're like making out on the couch and Ilya's saying, that he hasn't been with anyone in a while either. I'm just like, we have to get past this. And it's like, It's the most, like, it's so cute. It's acted so well. But also, get me out of here. Like, why are you making me watch this? It's too intimate. But that's fine. Sometimes, I don't know. I'm really glad that people feel comfortable admitting things to me about, like, oh, I didn't realize what the point of that scene was. But sometimes I am like, what show are we watching? What show is our other people watching? Because, like, I had someone argue with me about something recently that I was like, I mean, you can think whatever you want. I do think you're, like, literally factually incorrect, unfortunately, but, like, okay. Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, but yeah, I haven't been in the mood to like film long form, mostly because I like can't make it through most of the day without just like bursting into tears every 20 minutes. So that's not really helpful when you're trying to film. And it's you know, the vibes have been heavy, so it's felt just too much. But I feel like there's so many videos that I haven't made that I'm like, you should make that. That's an obvious one. And honestly, now that I'm saying it out loud, like the moments that made me go like, am I supposed to be here? Would be a pretty good video. Especially because there's so many. Like, I don't know if other people, yeah. Yeah, and it's such a roller coaster is the other thing. And it like, I really feel like the first few days I was just in such a haze that I didn't really notice what was happening to me. And the past 2 weeks, obviously every day has been a different thing. And I'm trying to just ride it out and not like get ahead of it or try to predict like how I'm gonna react to things. Because you just have to ride it out. But it has you know, thrown a lot of stuff into pretty sharp relief about like, what are you doing this for and what do you get out of it? And I don't think you need answers to everything. I think like, honestly, like letting your body kind of lead and not questioning yourself too much tends to be like my method for getting through difficult times. But it also makes you question a bunch of things, and I feel like I've kept making videos every single day because I like the routine. Like, first and foremost, like that's been so helpful to me, is just like, get up and do this, get up and do one thing. Like, the reason I'm changing out my keyboard right now is just because like it has been my routine for years every week to do this, because I used to vacuum cat hair out of my keyboard. I'm gonna cry. Because my cat was always on my desk, and like I'm still doing it even though that part's not true anymore. And it is breaking my heart to say this out loud, so I'm gonna stop talking about it. But the routine of doing something and having like daily tasks that I'm writing down, like I haven't been journaling because anytime I go to journal, I just cry, and it's like not helpful or effective. But I really, before this month, I've been thinking about doing like a workshop on journaling and like morning pages, because I get a lot of questions. Not on this account, but on my business account, I used to post me writing my morning pages every day, which was really just my way of like encouraging other people to do it. And I also post on my TikTok. The comment I get the most is just like, what do you write about? How do you do that? And like, I used to write 6 pages every single day for many, many years. So I have like an entire like bookshelf row filled with my own journals, which is really fun. So I do know how to teach people how to journal. And I think like having that as like an ongoing thing would be really cool for people to just like stop by and write for an hour, and like, here's your prompts for the week and stuff. So I also have the Monday morning prompt that I have to do tonight after this. And my plan with that, because it's number 52 this week, so I've been doing this for a whole year. The Meeting Medic has existed for a whole year now. So I plan to make like a Notion database for that and like a download printable PDF workbook kind of thing so that people can have just like a year's worth of thoughtful prompts to kick your week off with. And on the Notion database, they're all like sorted by process and stuff. But yeah, I think it would be good. And I need to get better about monetizing my things because I hate capitalism. um, so I have a lot of squickiness around engaging with it, and that is something I constantly battle with. So monetizing my things always makes me feel like, am I doing something bad or wrong by doing this? And that's why it took me so long to charge money for work. I mean, I was also like, I think you should do free workshops for a little while because I think, especially when I was like my first workshop, like I wasn't going to charge people to come to my first workshop. But it went so well that I was like, oh, I could have. But it's good. It's good to get all kinds of practice. Oh no. Oh, there's fucking. It's so lame what will trigger you in grief. And like cat hair is just one of those things that I'm like, okay, eventually I will stop finding it and I will stop crying, but I also don't want to stop finding it. So that's complicated. Everything in grief is terrible and makes you feel really fucking stupid. Like, and unreasonable and sad. And it's terrible. And there have been so many moments because like my cat was like really difficult. like I have baby locks on everything. I have like, because she would open things, get into things. Like I couldn't leave food out for longer than like 3 seconds before she would jump up and like just start eating. And it didn't matter what it was. It could have been lettuce. She was ravenous. And we had gotten her, she was fine. Like medically, she was very healthy right up until the end when her spine collapsed. And so there's just a bunch of things in my life that have gotten like less complicated, and anytime that happens, I like hate it. Like there's something in me that's like I'm not able to leave food out because it makes me sad that I can. It's that like, what a weird thing to make yourself go through. So just a lot of that. I never know. I'm going to be honest. I never know on this keyboard if Option or Alt goes where I put them. And then I just have to guess each and every time. But I've stopped building on The Sims, so it stopped mattering. But I used to play The Sims. I haven't fired up The Sims in so long. I almost did one time. I almost made Heated Rivalry stuff on there. Just because I was like, it's been a minute since I actually took like a layout and really made it happen. I used to. I feel like somebody had said on TikTok that like nobody had made the characters in the gallery, and I was like, that's simply not true. Like, there's too many. The crossover of Sims players and Heated Rivalry fans feels like a Venn diagram that's a circle. Like if you are into building houses in The Sims 4 and lose track of time, boy, do I have a character of all time to introduce you to, and his name is Shane Hollander. Like I feel like it's been really fascinating to me, and I think if they lean more into it, like in canon, the autistic representation of Shane is really fascinating to me, and how many people feel very represented by him, and like the portrayal of like a character like that, which is honestly so great. Like, way to go. And I'm really thrilled by it. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's very, you know, when you meet, I like made new friends last year that are like my comedy friends. And so they do know a weird amount about me because like stand-up comedy is a really honest thing like if you're doing it the way I think is, you know, good for the format, good for the medium. And so they know a lot about me, but they only know like things that I'm willing to like joke about in public. But like still a lot of that is like pretty deep and real. Ooh, I get to plug this back in. Let's find out what color it's going to be this week. Well, that's not cute. Let's filter through some of these. The purple like does not show up on camera at all. It's so funny how not colorful it is. But yeah, I am fascinated by like the representation of different autistic characters for autistic people. I think like there was what was it called? There was a Broadway play last year called like How to Dance in Ohio or something like that. And in their opening speech, they gave a thing about like when you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. And I feel like what's great about the idea of Shane as autistic representation is that like it doesn't feel like there's nothing comedic about it, which because it's being done respectfully. But also like even though Shane does fall into what I would say is technical like savant territory, it's like no, like the focus that he has and things like that, like that's kind of this, it's not a superpower, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's really important. Because we're still dealing with that type of representation being the most common, I would say. So thrilled about that. And yeah, it's already 10:30. I have to write the Monday morning prompt. Which is annoying. I don't want to. I don't have to, but to break a year-long streak on the last week, I think is the most devastating week you could do that. Yeah, it's autism's not a superpower, and the things that people tend to view as like, oh, but you can do it, like a lot of autistic people can do this, like whatever it is. A lot of that is it's I don't know, we've not had great discussions in society at large about autism, but I think autism has had a lot of really wonderful progress in terms of how it's discussed in certain like medical community stuff, and particularly with the broader autistic community. So I think it's really cool that a lot of autistic people are finding a lot of I don't know that I would say like comfort, but like just seeing something in themselves and having that thing be like loved by another person and celebrated. Just I'm like, yeah, it's not enough to represent something like on screen. You have to go as far as to say like, and there's nothing wrong. There's actually something really wonderful. There's all these like great things that when you let someone see you for who you actually are, they can love you for who you actually are. And look at all these ways that like Ilya is so charmed by all of these quirks that Shane has. I'm like, I really can't get over the fact that Ilya leaves Shane's socks on the second time they hook up, because it's such a great little detail for like, he's paid attention. He noticed that the first time they hooked up, Shane took everything off but the socks. And he noticed that because we see him laugh at Shane folding up his clothes like a good boy. Like a little autist, like needs to have things neat. And it's the same thing with Shane, like making his bed before he goes down to the gym that first night. It's like things need to have a certain order and be neat. And the idea of wearing socks only during sex for me is a nightmare. But like, what's great is that there are so many people who, when I made a video about it, were like, I'm autistic, I hate socks. And the other half were like, I'm autistic, I could never be barefoot in a hotel room. That's so gross. And I'm like, Yeah, that's fair. So it's just we're all living different lives, we're all having different experiences, and isn't that so neat? Um, and I feel like they do such a good job with the character development around that, but also having it be something that is endearing is just such a smart writing choice. Not only because like that's what love is, like, um, and neither of them like I do think like they're obviously oh, okay. This is good. See, this is why verbal processing is really helpful for me. Is because I'm like, that's what it is. Neither of they have to hide who they are from the world, but they literally never hide it from each other. And that is like why I think when Tuna Meltdown happens, Shane's so thrown off because like he thought that he really understood what was happening between him and Ilya. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I don't. And I feel very thrown off by this. But they never have to hide who they are with each other, but they do have to hide who they are from the rest of the world. So the things that they love about each other are like the very like yeah, there's something in it where like in so many romantic stories someone feels compelled to Sandy at the end of Grease. And also, by the way, Danny at the end of Grease. Like, I feel like anytime I see this fucking criticism of like Sandy changes herself radically, it's like, yeah, you know who else does? Danny. It's why they're a good fucking couple. Yeah, I mean, Ilya changes the rules without a chat about it because he was suddenly ready, and I do, I love that the catalyst for this is literally Svetlana being like, "You've been texting for years. It seems pretty serious," and it feels like he goes like, "Huh, I guess it is." And it's like, fucking idiots. Like I say it with so much affection, but you fucking idiots. Like they are Muppets. And yeah, I don't know. The idea that Svetlana is literally like doesn't even have to know details and it's just like you've been texting this person for a really long time. It's seems serious to me, and Ilya just is like, huh. I guess it is. I guess I should like buy him his favorite beverage and make him a sandwich. And this is one of those things where like I think Rachel Reed is like a fine author, but she does make a lot of choices and I'm like, yeah, that's like it's not like a choice made from like a sincere place. And so like she said that tuna melts were chosen because they were like the grossest thing she could think of. Like the idea of hooking up after a tuna melt is really gross to her. And I'm like, that like I guess I don't know. It allows me to say tuna meltdown in a bunch of videos, so I appreciate it. But tuna melts are also one of my favorite sandwiches, so I don't think they're gross, but I get why they are like. I understand it's not like a date food, but I also think that is something that I'm like, even if it was made because it's the funniest choice, um, it honestly adds to the whole thing. Um, Yeah, the book does feel a lot less comedic, I would say. I think the book is a lot more melodramatic, which makes sense. Because every other line is talking about why the characters are sad that they can't be together. It's not that I think the book is like enjoyable to read. Like I'm really not trying to shit on the book, but I do think like at some point I was like, okay, I get it. They want to break up with the other one. Like move, either have them do it or move on. Like, um, plays along with it like it's a girl. Sasha says hi, and you're like, yeah. I think the Sasha says hi is really nice and pointed. I hope Jane knows how lucky he is a really good line. Um, and I like that. I mean, yeah, I think there's something to be said about like the women are just kind of like magical in the books, or not so much. I don't know because they give Yuna a lot more 3D-ness in the show. I think the show does a better job with a lot of the girls than the books does because honestly, the Rose scene in the books is a tough read for me, and the show I think like did a good job not making that like magical hag sweeps in to save the gay guy from himself. Um, Yeah, I think the domesticity of the tuna melt, like it might have been the funniest choice, but it's also like they'll make out with tuna breath. They'll spit on each other with tuna breath. It's fine. Um, and yeah, I think the book and the show are different and good. And I think like the thing that I really appreciate about the book are the characters and the plot and the inherent conflict of the plot. I think this is one of those things where I'm like, this show has some of the best use of inherent conflict that I've seen. It's, I think, why the miscommunication does not feel frustrating. It makes sense that they cannot be together, which is also why the tuna melt is a little frustrating because it's like, what? Like, I think Ilya's a great character. I love Ilya as a character. I think it's very funny that he clearly cannot play the tape to the end because he never has any plan for where this is going to end up. And I think that's true of him as a character in the long game as well. Because like Shane clings to plans because they're safe and contained in a specific way. And so like Shane is able to understand like what's coming next and like prepare for it. So Shane likes a detailed plan. Do I think all of Shane's plans are brilliant? No, but that's fine. That's not the point of being the planner. The point of being the planner in narrative is also that you have all this pressure on you to make sure your plan makes sense, and because now everybody's relying on you. So it's a lot of pressure to be the planner. Pressure I don't think everybody appreciates. But Ilya's not a planner. Ilya's like throw shit at the wall and see what sticks kind of thing. And so it's hard because it's not that his plans are bad, it's just that they're half plans. And so like he doesn't quite I think I don't know, I can't stop thinking about like what is the end result of Tuna Day even if Shane sticks around, because they're not ready to have a conversation about their feelings or about what they are to each other. Like neither of them are. And Ilya's just trying to be like, we're now here, we're now doing this, and we don't have to have that conversation because we did it. We physically just advanced our relationship forward into domesticity. And it's like, that's not how that works. You actually do have to have the conversations with people. You do have to talk about your feelings in order for your feelings to be known. And yeah, I mean, I think like that's not to be like, people who don't make plans avoid things and people who make plans are avoiding things in a different way. But like I think it's just a different way of reacting to a lack of control that we have over life. Is like, some people are like, I have no control and I can admit that to myself, so I'm not going to make plans, I'm just going to do what I want to do, vibe it out, and it'll work out as it should. And then the other half of the spectrum is people who are like, if I can plan, I can have some power and agency in my own life, which is full of chaos because the world is chaotic or whatever. And yeah, I think like I'm a strong believer in having plans, and I'm a strong believer in being flexible about those plans. Um, and yeah, I think having like the idea that a plan gives you control is kind of it's like a false promise. So that's interesting to me. The idea that you can control things if you have a plan is false. Um, and having plans and backup plans is really just for like our own confidence. It's not really, you know. And so the more you plan and the more you prepare, the more you think of things from different angles, the faster your reaction time can be. But I think people who vibe, who are like, I can handle anything that comes my way, even if I don't have a plan, um, they're often more like, it's not that their plans don't work, it's just that they don't approach things like that. And so it's just different. Um, yeah, exactly. I don't think he planned tuna melt. I mean, he did because he prepared everything. He had the pickles. He had the whatever. But I think like he just went to the store and like didn't fully understand what he was doing there. Um, And, and then by the time it's happening and he's saying Shane's first name and they're like, oh no. Sorry, Ilya's not being like, oh no. Ilya's having the best moment of his life and then having the worst moment of his life right after it. So that's a bummer. Um, I think like it, yeah, the idea that he's like trying to cuddle with Shane and Shane is just immediately like, I don't know what this is. I don't feel safe. In this moment, I don't trust myself to not fuck this up in some way. I feel cuz I really think if you look at that scene from the perspective that Shane has always wanted Ilya to be his boyfriend, but has like long term given up on that goal, and really convinced himself that that can never be, should like, will never happen. Get rid of all those dreams and just take what you can get. Like sitting on his couch and being like brought in, um, like Ilya like brings him in to rest on him and like kisses his head, and it's like, oh, that hasn't happened since they had like anal sex for the first time. So that's a big deal for Shane to finally have that returned. And then he just immediately turns it sexual because like them being sexual together is much safer than them being emotionally intimate. So it's interesting to me that Shane in that moment is much more, he's instigating it, which like Shane instigates a lot of stuff, but he rarely instigates the actual like those moments. He's in control, and the lines of dialogue happening during that sex scene are completely different than any other time we see them. Really outside of like in even the last one, it's not there's it they're both so like love drunk. Um but yeah, like fucking make me might be one of Ilya's best lines. So I think it's a really good scene. You just have to stop before Shane withdraws during during the after kisses, because Jesus fucking Christ. Um, Yeah, I think like that's the thing. That's like the part of Ilya like didn't plan this out and then is like suddenly in dangerous territory where he's like sirens are going off in his head of like, what do you mean you understood a single word I said and that word was papa? And it's like, come on, Ilya, like get with it. But yeah, like he's not ready to emotionally open up about his family. He wants what he wants, but he wants it in this way that isn't fair to both of them because it's not actual intimacy. Um, yeah, I think the catching the avoidant vibes and just being like, how do I make this better? Well, I know what always makes it better. I know what we're good at together. Like that makes a lot of sense to me as far as like what Shane is doing. Um, I think he's just saying I love you in Russian. Um, I think he's working himself up to it. Um, Which is funny. I kind of I haven't thought about this in a long time. The first time I told my ex that I loved them, I would like kind of like hum it a little bit, like under like to get like the cadence of saying it under my breath. Um, and and then I said it. And I said it for the first. Yeah, I don't need to tell that to the internet. Um, we'll leave that story. Part of me is like, I don't know. We're 43 minutes in. I said I love you during sex the first time, and then I panicked because I didn't mean to. And then my ex came back in the room after we were done doing our post routines, and was very deliberately like, said it back to me, and I was like, okay, phew, we nailed it. Um, ooh, oh God, I'm like, I should go because I should go write this fucking newsletter, but I don't want to. I just want to hang out. I don't want to do anything that I don't want to do right now because I have so few moments where I don't feel bad, that when I do feel good, I'm like, yeah, let's stay in this forever. That's not how it works. But I'm like, I could. I know, it's so much fun. I really do enjoy, like, I don't watch lives ever really. Like it's just not how I typically engage with things, but I have really enjoyed going live and being live. Um, I don't know what's happening with my Substacks. It's just fun. Oh, thank you. I think like I do enjoy that I always go live and it's never my face because I'm always like, I'm doing work, come hang out, which is a good time. Part of me is like, can I type and talk? And the answer is yes, but also like, yay, thank you for enjoying my rants. I haven't, I feel like, okay, I don't know I really don't. I have never game planned what I'm doing with any of this, which is very unlike me. I have a Virgo stellium. I am a nightmare when it comes to planning. I'm always a plan first kind of person. And this has been like, literally, I just wanted to, yeah, exactly. I Iliad something for the first time in my life. I was talking to a friend in comedy class and we were talking about like why we hadn't started online things. And I was like, I said a bunch of reasons and then was like, oh, all of those reasons are really stupid. All of those reasons are about other people and my fear of other people's reactions to me. And that's just not how I live my life in any other capacity. So we're going to have to start a TikTok tonight. And then I did, and I started it. And my thing that allowed me to start was that I was like, I'm going to make facilitation TikToks. I'm going to do this for the business, which I now have, which is cool. Like I've mixed it into the brand, but that was what like gave me the confidence to start was I was like, it's not for me, it's for my business. And then immediately, I changed the name, I think like 2 weeks in, because I was like, nah, this is probably not representative of my business mostly. And then I posted a stand-up bit that I used to do about Gilmore Girls. And by used to do, I mean, it was seasonal. And that video got so many comments. And it was my first video that like, I think really popped at all. And I think it was like, like 400 likes, which is still great. And like the thing about numbers that's really weird on, the thing about numbers that's really weird online is that people will be like, oh, that's not that many people. And I'm like, if 1,000 people came to one of my workshops, I would be so overwhelmed with how many people that is. So like the idea of like, yeah, anyway, it's just very interesting. So that Gilmore Girls video got a lot of comments and I just started replying to them. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I have a joke about Gilmore Girls, but that's because I have very sincere, passionate thoughts about this show. Mostly I found out, it's not so much that I have thoughts about the show as I have thoughts about how the fandom critiques a show about women. Which has made talking about heated rivalry very interesting because I went from talking about a show that is exclusively dedicated to the interiority of women, to, like a show where it doesn't even pass the Bechdel test. And like, we don't have to get into it because all of the women in the show are given cool, fun things, about themselves. But it is a bummer that two women with names do not speak to each other the entire time. Yeah, the thing about horoscopes is like, I don't really, it's so much fun to talk about. I mean, I think I'm going on a podcast, someone else's podcast in a little while to talk about it, and to talk about specifically like the differences between the Amy and Dan episodes and how like a lot of the issues that fans have with Lorelai and with Rory come exclusively from Daniel Palladino written episodes versus when Amy wrote them. And not that Amy Sherman Palladino is a perfect person or creator by any means. But it's certainly interesting to me that the majority of the fat jokes that take place on the show were written by a man, and then get blamed on a woman. So, and also just like they did one commentary track, and in it, Dan says something about Emily that Amy Sherman Palladino is immediately like, you don't understand Emily. I'm like, oh, he doesn't. And you let him write the show. Daniel Palladino, unfortunately, does have some of the best episodes of Gilmore Girls. Like my favorite episode, like I once asked, actually, can I find this? I once asked a bunch of people what their favorite episode to show people of Gilmore Girls was. Because, yeah, there we go. Because I was curious which ones would be Daniel Palladino. Here's the thing about Gilmore Girls and the problematic. It was written in the early 2000s. So there's nothing on it that really screams inaccurate. Like, there are very few lines in it that I find personally offensive by today's standards even. And like 3 of them include the R word, which even when Rory says it, she immediately is like, I'm a horrible person. So like, people sometimes lobby things against it that I'm like, that's just not like the point of the point of the show is about how women have like extremely rich interior lives that all differ from each other and how like trauma affects us in different ways and how we all turn into our parents and grandparents because like trauma skips generations and stuff. But it just, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where like, when you watch any media from 20 years ago, there's gonna be shit in it that like is like, oh fuck. Like one of my favorite movies is Drop Dead Gorgeous, and I'm like, I can't recommend that movie to people though, because then you have to go into like, so when it was made, there was like a lot of different comedic standards around certain things, and like it's funny, but it's not fun. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, this is the list. Doing great. This is the list of recommendations. This is so tiny. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Just like a little bigger. Can I not? Ugh. Okay, hang on. Let me copy paste this. Yeah, I feel like, Drop Dead Gorgeous, it's wonderful and problematic, but anytime I say ALA, like CA, like, Buffy also has some ones. Friends is a huge one for me because Monica's fat suit is like so terrible. And that's just not, it's never commentated on the way that I wish it was. I don't know. For me, there's something to be said of like understanding why things were popular without having to make everything that they did like I don't want to say like non-problematic. I am going to wipe this because I don't know, I got oil on it somehow. But I think like you never have to watch anything you don't want to watch. But I think a lot of stuff that people are like, this is so problematic. Sometimes I find out what they were told and I'm like, that's not really like true though. Like it's done very differently than how it's being described. Like with Gilmore Girls. So this is this is the list of all of the episodes that people recommend for their first time watching stuff. And then I went through and figured out who it was written by. And so the majority of them are written by Amy, but 7 of the ones recommended, including the ones I recommend, are written by Daniel. And that's just interesting to me that like everybody can say fuck Daniel Palladino all they want, but when push comes to shove, he did write Cinnamon's Wake and he did write Deep Fried Korean Thanksgiving. So I did not like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I watched 2 episodes and was like, this isn't for me. And then anytime somebody tried to get me to watch it after that, I would be like, I still don't think this is for me. And part of it is that I do stand-up comedy, and stand-up comedy is just one of those things that's never captured well on screen. I think like very few things have ever gotten it right, and that's because it would be extremely boring to talk about stand-up in the way that it actually works. But I like Alex Borstein. I think Amy Sherman Palladino is like is a very good showrunner, but I also think that she has been burned by the industry so much at this point, and her bitterness comes through in a lot of her work, and that's fascinating to me. Good night. I have to stay up and do writing that I should be doing right now. And yeah, I didn't like Maisel. I understand a lot of people do, and I think that's like, I don't have anything against it. It just wasn't for me. I did watch 2 episodes of that ballet show and I really enjoyed it, and then I just never kept going, and that's a shame because I was a little, Bunheads came out at a time when I was like, I'm not interested in shows about high schoolers anymore. And then I watched it later in life and was like, I have so many emotions about these high schoolers. The Tom Waits Bunheads dance is like cinema. And it used to be on YouTube and it no longer is, so I can no longer show it to people in my great long, should we watch YouTube videos? Let's watch a bunch of Tony Awards performances, which is my favorite thing to be invited over to a gay dude's apartment to do. I have great early 2000s song recommendations because I did a lot of dance classes at that time. And so my big thing and how I like taught myself to dance was I would like teach myself music video choreography by like slowing down music videos. I would like I would like tape them on this like old school VHS tape we had, and then I would like play them at half speed, and that's how I learned a bunch of Missy Elliott dances. Yeah, Tony Awards, big fan of the Tony Awards. It is so fun. It used to be like the only way you could show people those things, and now bootlegs are just like so fucking popular. I like really can't get over how popular and accepted bootlegs are. It used to be so hard to get a bootleg, and not that it shouldn't be like, but I think that it's fascinating to me that I'm like, it used to literally cost you so much time and effort and energy to get a bootleg, and now everything is just like, here's a compilation of every single Glinda ever singing this one line. It's like, that's incredible, and I love that we have that. I had to be friends with like 45-year-old people. I had to like find people on LiveJournal who I could convince to give me like a bootleg that they hadn't given to anyone else, that I could get into the bootleg community so I could finally find a bootleg of Spring Awakening. Because that was what I was determined to seek out. And it was worth it. It was worth it. Spring Awakening was very important to me. Jonathan Groff was the first gay man I ever had a crush on. And it was successful. That Tony Awards performance is very weird because they changed all the lyrics to Bitch of Living because it couldn't be about masturbation. And then they sang Totally Fucked, but they couldn't say fuck, so they just had to keep clapping their hand over their mouth, and it looked really stupid. But Mama Who Bore Me, what an opening. Oh my God, the Phantom of the Opera bootleg community. Phantom of the Opera is always one of those that I was like, God, I wish I was into that. That seems like such a fun fandom. Like, I feel like Lindsay Ellis used to talk a lot about it. Like, I know she like met her like friend and like co-producer through those forums and stuff. And apparently there's like a really famous author who has some fic that's very famous in the Phantom community, and I've been on the outskirts of that community for a while, and I find it very interesting. I do love showing people Love Never Dies as like you want to get really high and watch something terrible, you should watch Love Never Dies. That's only if they've seen Showgirls, and only if they've seen Showgirls with the camp commentary soundtrack. The best director's commentary ever done, the camp commentary on Showgirls. I love Showgirls. With caveats. I feel like Showgirls is one of those things that like anytime I talk about it, I'm like, oh, there's too much to get into. But I will say in Gilmore Girls, Lorelai is like, I realized that she has a line where she talks about having like the Showgirls special edition. And I have that. I have the box set that comes with shot glasses and a naked poster of Nomi and a game of pinning nipple tassels to her. It's very weird. What a weird movie, but very fun in terms of breaking it down, because like somebody left a comment that was like, it's like Showgirls where there's no subtext, it's just text. And I'm like, that criticism to me, yes, they used to show it on VH1 with that same edit, and it is hilarious. My favorite thing about Showgirls is I have now watched it with a lot of straight guys, and they all think that they're gonna be really horny during it. Like they all, they tend to be like, oh yeah, like fuck yeah, I'll watch Showgirls. And then like halfway through, they're like, why do I feel so sad? Like, why am I not turned on by the amount of raw nipple I'm seeing? And it's like, because they managed to make a movie so horny, it's not horny. And there's something to be said about bringing it back around. found heated rivalry. There's something to be said about the horniness of this show coming from the fact that the two actors were actually really making out with each other. Like the amount of like face smushing that happens, the amount of like noses colliding. There's a moment in, I think it's a kiss in like the second time they hook up where like Shane's hand like drags across Illy's cheek and you see the skin move and I'm like, yeah, like real fucking touching. And I just think that that's really great and wonderful because we deserve good romance. Yeah, there's a lot of spit strings. You can see some spit in the stairwell kiss too. Um, that last sex scene I've talked about it just being like I'm not supposed to be here. I feel weird watching this, guys. And really good acting, really good acting. People like the intimacy coordinators also talked about like how they would communicate like what was supposed to be happening during certain scenes. So like they would like pinch each other and like let go when it was like I've pulled out now, so that they could like react appropriately. And I just think like all of that adds a lot of realism to it. Yeah, I also like I don't know, the thumb in the mouth stuff is also just like my personal like I can't watch this show with other people. What a fucking nightmare. They can't know. He's a really good actor. I think that unfortunately like I think that Connor's there's like a tweet of it that shows it so well where like it might be a GIF. Am I gonna open up Tumblr on, let's see if it's in my likes or if it's in this. Is it on my blog? No. Is it in my likes? What a GIF. What an incredible Sopranos GIF. That's true. That is true. God, it's not going to be on here either, is it? And I'm just exposing how many of these things. This is one of my favorite kisses. Just very like that's what I mean by like the smushing. Like you can see the skin move. Lots of tongue. Great job, GIF editors. Who's this from? Let's give credit. Oh Jesus, it used to be so easy. Is that the person? It might be. Okay. So I believe Blonde Shell is responsible for these gifts. This is the scene that I'm like, I can't watch this. Where is it? It's not going to be here. I will say these are also great gifts. Look at this man act. Yeah, I don't, it's actually terrifying to consider how much they were, Jesus Christ. It's so funny. My towel blog has been flagged by Tumblr. Like, I can't post about them wearing towels, but people are just straight up gifting the sex scenes and nothing's happening. But like, Connor looks entirely different as Ilya in a way that's like actually alarming. He's so cute like he has a different facial structure. And that's, yeah, like it's fascinating to me. My Tumblr is Little Corner in Brooklyn. It's the name is so old. When I lived out west, my blog name was Easty Westy for a little while, and Little Corner in Brooklyn happened because what is happening on my dash these days? Nothing good, probably. The thing is, if you follow a Jimin tag, you will end up seeing a lot of RPF. But my blog was named from a guy that my friend was hooking up with. Like from Tumblr. He said to him one day in like a fight, he was like, and Dan can go cry in his little corner in Brooklyn. And I was like, oh, that's a really good blog title. And I was living in Brooklyn at the time. And now I live next to Brooklyn, so it's fine. Incredible. Thank you all. Yeah, he like holds his jaw completely differently. It's really really wild. I like actually can't get over what it looks like when he does that. Just an absolute nightmare. Well, you can all find out my inner thoughts that I don't share on the internet, but do share on Tumblr. I haven't looked through my own blog in a while. I used to have a really fun tag. Oh, I wonder if I can still find it. Yeah. I used to have a tag just called Hi. That was just like fun things to look at while stoned. So that was, this image really does sum up my life in many ways. I do love it. I haven't updated this in so long. Oh my God, can't look at that. Okay, moving on. Surrealist parties. Hell yeah. This is the kind of stuff that for me is like why I'm still on Tumblr. Is just like, yeah, show me really fucking cool interiors. I didn't see that. I don't like Evan Ross Katz. Where did he come from? I don't understand. Like, I feel like there are certain people like I missed when they became cultural figures. And so like, I'm just always baffled by their presence. And Evan Ross Katz is one of them. And I can't believe that he James Liptoned them. I feel like so many people online are like, put the I Love the 70s, 80s, 90s on whatever. And I agree with them because those were very important shows to me. But you know what I need on streaming more than anything? Inside the Actors Studio. Because I would have given anything for James Lipton to look at Connor's story and say like, can I talk to Ilya? Like, we deserved it. And no one, you can't even watch the old Robin Williams like interview on there. Like, what are they, just cut out the clips. I don't need the clips. Inside the Actors Studio was so good. I do think there are certain questions that I feel like I have thought about forever, and one of them is the Lost Culturista's question, like, what made you say culture is for you? And there's so many answers, but Inside the Actors Studio is absolutely what made me the monster I am today. Just in terms of like how I think about art and approach craft, and like the Robin Williams one is so good. I think about it all the time. I think about him going up to claim his Oscar and how he talked about like how time slows down, and he's going like, Matt, Ben, and like he's just doing everything in slow motion. Then he grabs that woman's pashmina and does like 10 minutes of just, thinking about the things you could do with physicality, and like the way he talked about I was doing modern dance at the time, and he talked a lot about like Twyla Tharp modern dance, and like that really got me into Twyla Tharp at a very young age, which is I think why I was obsessed with the Billy Joel musical, which made me obsessed with Billy Joel. So I feel like there were just so many knock-on effects that happened after Inside the Actors Studio, because like they would mention directors that they really admired or whatever, and I'd be like, okay, well now I have to go watch a bunch of his movies. Which Inside the Actors Studio did I love the most? Robin Williams is up there. Unfortunately, Dave Chappelle is a monster, but he had one of the best interviews that it breaks my heart that he became the person he became because he gave such a thoughtful interview at one time. Oh my God, yeah, I forgot about that. Who else? Robert Redford had a really, really good one. Spielberg's, Simpsons cast is so good, but they did a thing where anytime he would have cartoons on, like because they did the cast of Family Guy too and whatever, they would be like, let me talk to Bart. And then as the person was talking, they would show pictures of Bart. And it's like, I want to see her do the voice. I know what Bart Simpson looks like. It drove me up the fucking wall. Inside the Actors Studio, I do want to, for all the smoke I'm blowing about it, I do just want to say, they had one of the saddest kind of like corporate falls to corporate greed I've ever seen, because like that episode with Jen Aniston where there's a moment where James Lipton is like, and how do you stay so young? And she was like, smart water. And like that was the entire segment. And then he would be like, brought to you by Infinity Cars. And it's like, what happened to Pace University? Why is this so corporate now? The worst one I think was the Kate Hudson interview. I've never quite gotten over how bad Kate Hudson comes off in her Inside the Actors Studio. And like, to be fair, they were promoting 9, which like no one had any way of knowing that 9 was going to be the disaster that it was based on like the cast and the director and all of these wonderful things that it had going for it. But she literally says, I'm a guy's girl in like the first like 3 minutes, and then just keeps fake laughing at every question he asks. And I'm like, Kate Hudson is an interesting case of Nepo baby. And I wonder how her Fabletics empire is doing now. But yeah, I loved Inside the Actors Studio so much. I'm trying to think of other. Kate Winslet had a really good one. I was just thinking about hers because they're playing Titanic this month in movie theaters, and I'm gonna go see it. And I'm really fucking excited to go see it because I love that movie so much. And I was trying to convince my friend who's never seen it to come see it with me. And I was just like, let's go because it'll be so fun. And you love smoking and Leo's a great smoker, which is like my angle for everything for her. Angelina Jolie's was so great. Her talking about Gia really was wonderful. Her talking about Girl Interrupted was really, really cool. And she was just so cool. Like, unfortunately, I also, at the time, not anymore, monster of a man, didn't know this at the time. The Johnny Depp interview was very, very cool. And he had some like moments in that made me go like, oh, wow, acting. And then like everything that happened after. And you're just like, why can't you just be a cool person? Yeah, like the stuff that she was talking about in that interview and the way that she really approached, like, yeah, I had some weird shit happen with my celebrity, was interesting. And I love that she was just like, I'm a tough girl. I want to do the stunts. I want to beat up. I mean, it's the same thing with her and Brad. It's like, it's that thing of like, why did Brad Pitt have to be an asshole? Why couldn't he have just been a good fucking guy? And then we all could have just had a good fucking time. But now every time I'm like, oh, I want to watch Ocean's 11, I have to have like a moral conundrum about whether or not it's worth it because half the fucking guys in Ocean's 11 are bad men. And even though Steven Soderbergh is not, and George Clooney ostensibly, as we can tell, but he's associated with all of them, so is he? I just wish artists understood how personally annoying for me their actions are. I'm kidding. I only care. I wish that there were no victims of very powerful men, and then the world would be a better place. But there are certain things where I'm just like, I own the DVD of that. It's not going to show up on streaming. I'm not putting money in anyone's pocket. I'm allowed to watch Ocean's 11 in the privacy of my own home. Do I put it on my top 5 favorite movies? No. Like, because I think it's the same thing with like, I own some Kanye West records and like, I'll put those on occasionally in the privacy of my own home. I don't stream Kanye songs because I think that there's like a cultural significance that gets counted, like, I don't know. It's the same thing with like, I as soon as I found out what was happening with Woody Allen, I was like, well, okay, never gonna watch Midnight in Paris again then. And like, that was it. Like, it's just, that was it. And like, I don't know. I get so annoyed when I see people still talking about Harry Potter. One, because a lot of those people are in their 30s, and I do think it is time that we read another book. But also just like, someone is still making money off of this, and that person is a bad person. So like, stop making it culturally relevant. Like, yeah, Yeah, like it fucking like it sucks that Neil Gaiman is a bad person. Like it really does. Like it fucking why can't these men not abuse people? Why can't they just be good at art? And that is the eternal question that we're all suffering with. And I wish we had a better answer, which is just like power corrupts people and often it's, it's when do victims become perpetrators and all of these things. But I get so aggravated when the discussion in the fandom becomes about the like how can we still enjoy this thing instead of like active grief for what we've lost. You know what I mean? Like and then there's people like Terry Pratchett who by all accounts super fucking lovely dude, and like that isn't that wonderful. We should focus on the people who make it out without selling their souls. But I have this with like Tina Fey and stuff. Like I know that Tina Fey knows and was witness to some pretty horrific behavior at SNL that she's never spoken out about. And I think that has really made me upset at a lot of the stuff that I think like, I don't know. I was talking about this with a friend. I'm like, the Me Too movement, like it so much of it ended up being about celebrities that we never ended up talking about how it affects women at every single level in every single job. And that sucks because we should. But also like it just it's really, I don't know. I think working in the entertainment industry does require trade-offs of your soul and your morals for every single person who does it. And it's really like a level of tolerance that I don't have. I don't have tolerance for the bullshit and the amount of like abusers who are in those spaces who become the gatekeeper. Like it's just like, there's a cycle of it. There's a cycle of abuse and you get trapped in it. And if you want to play ball, you got to play ball this way. And then like, it's just I don't know. But America has that in everything. Like America has a hazing problem. A lot of places do, but America in particular, because I don't know. I actually don't know if this is, unlike in other cultures where like hierarchical stuff is much more rigidly enforced. I think like hazing is a different thing. But in America where we don't have that, yes, I think intimacy coordinators are one of the best things that I think like was a huge change that came from the Me Too movement. And I, once again, bringing it back around, heat of rivalry, way to fucking go. Way for every single person on that set to be like, nope, it's an extremely important role. We really, really appreciate it. And what you guys think is happening is probably not what is actually happening. Like I think intimacy coordinators, it's one of those things where for a long time there's been this like, thing around like new movies coming out and people being like, oh, actually, we didn't use one and we don't need one. And I'm just able to talk freely to people. And it's like, that's not what they're, like consent being sexy is true all the time. And so I was really, really glad. And I'm glad that she's doing her own interviews. It does. I've seen some good interviews. I think that it's hard for some interviewers to ask her questions that don't feel salacious in nature, because of like the nature of what she's discussing. And sometimes I feel like the questions get a little bit like, and what did they improv, or what do you think the actors were bringing to this? And I'm like, back away, like danger, danger, danger. They're trying to get you to say something. But she's obviously been great. And yeah, it's interesting to see how people talk about it. And I think the show having just like all positive things to say about intimacy coordinators makes me really happy, because it just feels like everybody was taken care of, everybody was safe, and there were a lot of scenes in that show that they had to make sure that everybody felt really safe and like good job casting actors who had a lot of actual chemistry with each other. And so they were able to keep each other safe and all of those things too. And that's really wonderful. Like, I think I I'm I never talk about the actors in videos like as who they are. I always really try to focus on the characters, or I call out moments of acting because I get so freaked out by the amount of people who will immediately show up in those comment sections and just be like, he wasn't acting, he's really in love. And it's like, oh my God, guys, like, go back to your other fandom where this is acceptable. But it's not in mine. And like, um, but I do think that they really, really, really did cast an incredible cast, and those two were able to do something with each other that I don't think we've seen done on screen in that way. It's so insulting to the actors. And again, this is where Inside the Actor Studio comes into it, is I'm like, no, I really enjoy thinking about acting as a set of choices. So what choices were they making? What did they think about this? Like, when both of them talk about the characters, they have so much interiority going on. And I'm like, yeah, because they were really doing it. You know what I mean? Like, I think you can tell that both of them are just like kind of fucking dorks about acting, and I love that because I think that it's a job that requires a lot of passion and sustained passion and all of those things. So yeah, the delusion is real, but you know, it makes sense to me based on what a lot of modern fandom has become. And especially like my brief foray into certain fandoms, I'm like, yeah, there's just I don't know. It's so aggravating. And yeah, I think there's just well, okay. I'm gonna be really specific about this. So I in like 2021, yeah, that would have had to be X. Yeah. I was in a bad place in my life in 2021, and a friend was like, I'm really into BTS. I think you would enjoy their dance videos. So I got very into BTS. And the thing about the BTS fandom is that, and this does not represent, they have a huge fandom. So this is not a blanket statement about the fandom, but this is a blanket statement about the shipping culture within that fandom. And so I get comments from people who have little symbols in their names, and I know that those symbols stand for shipping certain members with other members. And the thing about shipping real people is that it's harmless in theory, but not in practice. And if this was kept to discords, to group chats, it would be one thing, but it's not. And so with BTS in particular, I see a lot of those people popping in over to this fandom, and it makes sense to me because they're looking for like they're looking to like fulfill this fantasy that they've built up for years and years. And it happens with Taylor Swift fandoms too. It happens with like I used to have a mutual on Tumblr who got really into the idea of the Oasis brothers being together, and I was like, I'm gonna unfollow, I think. Like, this is a line too far for me, but thank you so much. It was so great following you for a while. But the thing I noticed in BTS that I really do want to talk about, and I don't know how to talk about this because I do think it is like some of my most controversial opinions. I'm fascinated by the idea that part of modern marketing for a lot of bands involves shipping. Like, I'm fascinated by this idea that so much of Taylor Swift's fandom spends their days figuring out how to make her how to make the story that she's presenting to the public performance art so that they can continue to like her because she's not a straight cis white billionaire. She's actually a secret lesbian. You know what I mean? And so like it's all these things that are kind of fascinating to me, and I've been fascinated about it, particularly like the Larry stuff was kind of the first thing that I think broke containment in a very particular way. And I think it's fascinating that Louis has been very like vocal for years about this is a crock of shit. You people are very strange. You make my life hell. You make my son's life hell. I don't like you. And the other side of that ship has never said anything about it and continues to release music on dates that the fandom, that particular side of the fandom, erupts around. And so there's this thing where I'm like, well, there's opportunity is still happening even with a lack of, you know what I mean? And so it's interesting. It's interesting. And I feel like with BTS is the same thing where like they have, yes. And I think the parasocialism being very specific, um, is and encouraged by the lives and by a lot of these like fan calls and things. Like it's built into the system. But I think what's interesting to me about BTS is the effect that the shipping culture has on the fandom overall. Because even if you don't ship, you still have to deal with the fact that so many people do. And there's a thing that like I'm okay. I think BTS has like over 500,000 fics on AO3 about them. And that is a staggering number. And I think what happens is a lot of times, and like the thing with fandom is like fandom around fictional characters involving shipping, very like completely different. You know what I mean? But all of those muscles are still built up to be like, how can I find the moments where these two are touching or looking at each other or said something a little bit like where you could raise your eyebrows and go like, that's a little strange. And so that kind of like reflexive training, like that muscle memory is there. And so when you watch boys interact with each other, especially like in Korea, there's like a lot of reasons why this is happening. And also, yes, fan service. So when those things happen and the fans make 3-hour-long edits about every single time these two have touched in the last 7 years, set to romantic music with explanations as to like other things and Instagram stories that were being like, it's all this like, there's so much lore to it. So it's real. I understand how people get sucked into it because it is that thing of like, wouldn't it be the best love story of all time if two members of one of the most famous bands of all time were secretly dating the entire time in front of us and we didn't know? I get how that's like a heady concept. Because it's the exact concept of heated rivalry, which is like, wouldn't it be nuts if this was happening and we didn't know about it and they managed to make it a real relationship? And so, yeah, it's fascinating to me. But I think what happens a lot of time, like what happened in my experience of it with BTS, yeah, it's the conspiracy nature is very, very scary to me because I think a lot of people are conspiracy brained at this point in ways that they don't recognize. And that is weird. And they behave strangely because of it. And so like, a lot of times what I saw happen with BTS is people would like run out of actual material that they could talk about. And so then they would just start reading fake stories. Like you run at a certain point, there's only so many concerts you can watch. And like with BTS, they have a variety show that has like 150, like you won't run out, you know what I mean? But you will if you're dedicated. And so then people turn to the fake stories. But then what I would see happen is occasionally people would say things that I'm like, that didn't happen. And then I would be like, oh, they read that in fic. Because like, you know how fic has that thing where every fandom has different like tropes that pop up over and over again? That happens in the K-pop ones too. So I would be like, that's not true. Jimin's never done that. And I'm like, oh, that Jimin must do that in fic. Which is also bizarre. Like, but people I don't think have a great grasp on like what's real and what's imaginary when it's all written about like actual people. And they spend way more time in group chats talking about how evil Jimin is because he's keeping their two faves apart or whatever versus like actual things that we know. And we don't know anything about celebrities is the other thing. Like, yeah. This is one of the many reasons I hate Stephen Moffat. Is I think he made people feel like they should do this with every piece of media. Like I just there's one quote from Stephen Moffat that I think about all the time that I was so annoyed about. And it was after like the Moriarty jumped off the building death. He said something to the media of like, even my 11-year-old has figured out the twist. And like there was no twist. Like there was nothing. And so like, yeah, when the Stranger Things finale, I've never seen a single episode of Stranger Things. I don't know anything about it. But when that finale came out and then I saw a bunch of people be like, there has to be a secret episode coming. I was like, is this an intentional parody of the Apple theory or whatever that fucking 4th episode of Sherlock was supposed to be called? Or is this just like literal patterns repeating without acknowledgement of what's happened before, because it felt like the latter, and I think it was. So yeah, I hate Stephen Moffat so much, and I got really, really mad when I found out that the reason that the Gilmore Girls reunion was written the way it was because she was basing it on Sherlock, and having like hour and a half long episodes, because I think it was truly the worst revival we've ever gotten. It's yeah, I mean, the Super Hulock era of the internet should have a lot more written about it. But it doesn't. Yeah, Amy Sherman Palladino basically said, like, I love the idea of doing mini movies like Sherlock. And like, what, why? Why would you do that to me? And so I just, yeah, whatever. The Gilmore Girls revival is bad for many, many reasons, most of them involving the fact that Amy Sherman Palladino fucking never got over what happened to her. And so she wrote like the single most bitter thing in the world. Smock bomb pee wet. Oh, that's cute. Oh, this was my 30th birthday. Okay, that's fun. My friend, oh my God, this is so funny to have this as one of my only shots of that night. My friend booked us a table at Serendipity, and we didn't realize it was like a restaurant for children. We thought it was like going to be booths, and then we got there and we were so stoned, and we could not stop laughing. And Rihanna was like, they were blaring "We Found Love in a Hopeless Place" at like such a loud volume, and we sat there and we could not stop cracking up. And everybody around us definitely thought we were like laughing at them, and we were just laughing at ourselves. So these are real Tiffany lamps. These are vintage Tiffany lamps that they sell. You can buy them. But I had the picture of Serendipity in my head as being from the movie Serendipity, where it's like cute, but like not. And we, for whatever reason, were like, where are your booths? And it was just truly the funniest situation to find the most stoned, recently turned 30-year-old in. And then there was like a group of businessmen who came down and like sat down, and I was like, they are completely out of place. And then they got their burgers in like under 10 minutes. Like the kitchen was cranking. And so I was like, I wonder if there's like a subsect of businessmen around here who are like, you know, where we can actually get the quickest bite in the world, but you will have to listen to 2 hours of EDM music while we eat. It's funny that this is the only shot I took of it, but also I'm like, we have very similar ceilings, me and Serendipity. I do love this shit. I wrote a whole blog about fun tech at one point. Look at this bag. Look at these sunnies. Okay, I'm gonna stop doing a tour of my blog. I have to go write. Not that this hasn't been so much fun. This has been the most fun. I'm like, now I'm going through my blog, like, can you see where I don't think I've ever posted like anything too much. Let's look at some Bob Mackie. Load GIF. This is what sucks about Tumblr now. Look at Cher. Look at all of Cher's fucking outfits. Wow, that One Direction post really cracked me up. Yep, this tracks for what I was like, yeah, this makes me laugh. I'm really stoned. Wow, remember when I made food? Oh, this is cute. Oh no, I'm gonna cry. Okay, well. Wow, I have really not changed my taste much from when I was making this a while ago. Oh my God, look at my old couch. I loved this fucking couch. Okay, anyway. Oh, good Lord. Okay, I am gonna go, and thank you all so much for hanging out. It has been so much fun. Thank you to the folks. I'm gonna follow you back on Tumblr. We'll have fun over there. I'm gonna go write. You can find out what I wrote tomorrow morning in the Monday morning prompt number 51 on the Meeting Medic Substack, not Smoke Show. That's right, I have 2 blogs. I have to make a video because I actually haven't posted a video to YouTube today, and that would break my streak, and I refuse to do that. So I'm gonna go film a really quick video, probably talking about being a planner and the difference of planning between Shane and Ilya, because I was really cooking there for a minute. Thank you for following along with my very scattered thoughts. I will try to announce when I'm doing these ahead of time. So that like we can all like be together and like people know what's happening. But I'll probably go live a few more times this week and do some like write with me, work with me kind of Pomodoro stuff. And that's always really fun. And I hope everybody else has fun doing it too, and we can get work done together. And then we can chat for 5 minutes about Heated Rivalry. And maybe if I like announce it ahead of time, I'll do the like, we'll do like 20 minutes of work and then 10 minutes of chatting or something. So it's like a little bit more. Yeah, this is the definition of alone together in many ways, isn't it? Okay. Have a great night, y'all. Thanks for hanging out. See you later.